Hello, I am Mary Singletary Henson. Welcome to my fifth grade math standards and revisions presentation, Implications of Successful Teaching of Math Standards based on Practice and Domain Progression. Fifth grade math objectives build on previous year's standards, students' prior knowledge, as well as building on new standards throughout the year. Standards are set to ensure that not only teachers understand what is expected during the year, but students, parents, guardians, administration as well. Standards are determined by previous year's standards and the expected ability level of students entering and upon completing fifth grade. Our fifth grade mathematic focus standards objectives are to write and interpret numerical expression, analyze patterns and relationships, understand the place value system, perform operations with multi-digit whole numbers, perform operations with decimals, use equivalent fractions as a strategy to add and subtract fractions, apply and extend previous understandings of multiplication and division to multiply and divide fractions. Again, that is one of those standards building on previous knowledge. Convert like measurement units within a given measurement system, represent and interpret data, understand concepts of volume, understand the coordinate plane, and classifying quadrilaterals. To ensure students in fifth grade are receiving quality teaching over quantity, revisions were made to specific standards. These revisions were made to be more explicit in what students should be focused on and what should be taught and learned. You will notice on this slides with revisions to mathematical standards that it gives very explicit details on what to teach on particular standards where in previous years it may have been unclear. You also notice that on a few of these revisions, some things have been taken out or moved forward to the sixth grade standard. That is just, again, ensuring that the quality of teaching is there rather than the quantity. We want to ensure that all fifth graders, upon exiting fifth grade or graduating out, understand every standard that is set forth by the state of North Carolina. Mathematic focus standards ensure that all students are provided an opportune environment to learn. The standards are utilized to ensure engagement of students and the teacher. Our fifth grade mathematic focus standards include making sense of problems and persevere in solving them, reason abstractive and quantitatively, construct viable arguments and critique the reasoning of others, model with mathematics, use appropriate tools strategically, attend to precision, look for and make use of structure, look for and express regularity in repeated reasoning. To ensure math is taught with rigor, the following integration practices will happen inside of the classroom on our standards of mathematical practice integration. Students will utilize Manipulate to understand patterns and relationships with equations. Sometimes math can be very difficult to understand if you do not have the visual when it comes to relationships, especially in fractions, which are a large part of fifth grade standards. Students will participate in teacher-led discussion, where students must accurately reason, defend, and justify answers in the series of equations used. Not all students learn the same. Not all students solve the same. That is where differentiated instruction plays a large part, and that is where teacher-led discussion will take place just to ensure that students understand the properties that need to happen in order for them to obtain an accurate answer. Students will utilize reverse problem solving to check and verify answers. This is something that is used throughout the years in multiple math classes as well as standards, such as when double checking addition, you can always reverse it back to subtraction, vice versa. Students will be made to utilize those specific roles to ensure that their answers are correct. Students must defend how current math standards relate to real world and make practical connections. One thing in my classroom is I always take it back to everyday real life situations. Without understanding how this can interfere in their daily lives, students have a tendency to not fully comprehend or understand or want to fully comprehend and understand certain standards or lessons. However, once you relate it back to them on how it can affect them daily or affect their lives, they are more understanding and more engaged in wanting to learn. In that fact, they must defend how these math standards relate to them and make those practical connections. Progression through domains. Each domain builds on the previous knowledge of the student. The domains begin with understanding numerical expression and then progresses to understanding the relationships and patterns between those expressions. The domains then move forward to understanding whole digit operations before progressing to understanding operations with decimals. That goes back to learning the whole before breaking it down. Understanding operations with decimals progresses to performing multi-level operations involving fractions. Understanding operations with fractions leads to understanding measurement and interpreting data. Each domain builds in rigor and comprehension and understanding of previous domains and standards. Just as rigor and comprehension increases throughout the years from first grade to second grade, etc. That is the same for every standard and domain in mathematics. They all build on rigor and comprehension within the subject of mathematics. Utilization of tools for math. One tool that I love is iExcel. iExcel allows the teacher to actively assign standards where students need extra practice. iExcel also allows the teacher to lead class jams where the teacher and students can actively participate in small group sessions. Teacher can use the live classroom feature to monitor students as they complete standards and help struggling students. The one good thing about iExcel is that the teacher can assign standards, or students can go in there and choose their own standard to work on, but they are all ability-based to the grade level standards set forth by the state of North Carolina or the state that you happen to live in. Manipulatives. Manipulatives will be utilized throughout certain lessons to help students make and understand connections with mathematical operations. This is great for our kinesthetic learners to be hands-on, as well as our visual learners, where they just need a little extra or a little more than just looking at a paper and solving those problems. Manipulatives give them something to see and focus on and allow them to create those relationships and connections between the numbers and objects. Differentiated instruction. Differentiated instruction will be used for students that possess IEPs, 504s, or are currently in the MTSS system. Accommodations will also be made for struggling students as well as advanced students. Differentiated instruction does not just fall under struggling students. Advanced students also receive that differentiated instruction where they must utilize those deeper thought processes in order to come to conclusions. In my reflection, math is a significant part of daily life, from simply telling time to figuring out tips for services and estimating totals when shopping. It is important that math is taught with purpose and rigor. By beginning with basics, creating a firm foundation, and building up, we are ensuring that standards focus on previous standards while building on those current standards. Math must be taught in a variety of ways to ensure complete comprehension and should be taught in a manner of quality over quantity. Math standard revisions have been made to ensure firm foundations and complete understanding are obtainable for all students. Student success in math is based on the understanding that schools, communities, and guardians all work together to provide opportunity to learn and the means to do so. Mathematical instruction is not just taught in the school. Those connections must be made outside of the school, and that is where the partnerships between the community and guardians needs to happen to ensure that students are able to make those real world connections. It takes multiple layers and multiple people.